So first of the Sunday matches then, it was at Villa Park, Aston Villa against high-flying Leicester. This is really sort of Midlands derby, really. Iheanacho was up front with Vardy for the Foxes, Barnes on the bench, and Pratt was selected as well. Driving rain, but a great atmosphere, and it was end-to-end stuff really for the early part. Of course, we were all looking at Maddison and Grealish, who seemed to be in contention for an England place, the same place though, and they were both showing their qualities. 12 minutes, a free kick, Sayu, I'm not sure that's pronunciation's right for the Turk. Anyway, Sayusu got it. His header was flicked across to his fellow defender Evans, but he should have done better from 3 yards out, but it was a tame effort. Up the other end, El Ghazi hit a ball following a Grealish overlap, but it didn't come to anything. And then down the right for Leicester, Ricardo was looking a constant threat. 20 minutes then, and this followed an injury to Mings, who pulled up with a hamstring, but unfortunately Villa didn't replace him, and Leicester on the break and caught out the defence, and Mings of course was an integral part of that, so he wasn't involved because he just hardly could run. Vardy was too fast, and he managed to evade the other defender, and he rounded the keeper and then slotted it into an empty net. So that was 1-0 Leicester. Villa, by which time they'd replaced Mings, Villa went on the offensive, and an El Ghazi header was just over, but then a break up the other end, and Vardy, who was looking lethal, had another chance smothered. Another run on 37 for Vardy following a Maddison pass, but it was cut out. And then on 42 minutes, a cracking second for the Foxes. Soyutsu was involved, and he fed Chilwell out on the left, who then linked up with Maddison, and his strong drive cross was met by Iheanacho, who got ahead of the defender and tucked it in from 3 yards. So that's 2-0 to the Foxes. 44 minutes, Ricardo had a half chance, but this time Heaton steered it behind, and that signalled the opportunity for late on for Villa to reduce the deficit. The ball was pinging around in the box, and eventually it came to Grealish, who thumped it across the box, and it was deflected past Michael's left-hand post. VAR had a look at it, but the goal stood, so that was 2-1. Villa were back in the game. An interesting first half, really. For the first 20 minutes, Villa were as good as the Foxes, but the second period, Leicester showed their class. So that's half-time then. Leicester up 2-1. Second half action then. Early chance for El Ghazi on 47 was tipped away by Schmeichel. A minute later, a corner was floated in for Leicester, and Evans got his head to it and looped it wide of the keeper into the top corner. It's a really good header, and that signalled the third goal for Leicester, so they were 3-1 up. 64 minutes then, Villa pushing forward, but the Leicester defence was solid. Vardy again set up Maddison on 67 on the break, but the shot just clipped the post. Leicester looking so dangerous going forward, and we were fully expectant of more goals. And Chilwell up to the byline, and his cross was met by Tielemans, who blasted over. Should have done better, the Belgium. And 72 minutes, another drilled cross from Ricardo, but this time Barnes' connection went just wide. But finally, on 76, Vardy again just too quick for the defender, with the ball pushed through, and he shot the ball wide of Heaton into the corner. It's 4-1, and well deserved. Another effort by Barnes went over, and Heaton kept the score down from a Soyuncu header on 77. Villa did have an opportunity on 83 when El Ghazi missed a great chance, but that was really about it. Heaton still had to be sharp in added time when Barnes made a great effort, but he pushed it behind. So we reached the full-time whistle. A comfortable win for the Leicester side. They are looking very impressive, and they won this game at Villa Park by 4-1. So to the Amex then. Brighton at home to Wolves. Both sides in good form. Wolves, in fact, have only lost one in the last 16. It's a strange sort of game. A great first half and a very dull second half. It took a little bit of a while to get going, but on 27 minutes, a nice link up between Jota and Jimenez. Jota fed Jimenez out onto the left side. On the edge of the box, he bent across with his right foot into the penalty box, and Jota had followed up the run and arrived and placed the ball past Ryan for 1-0. Deserved lead for Wolves, I must say, but they weren't in front for long. On 33 minutes, a long ball from the halfway line over the top, and Mope stole a yard on the defender, and he blasted the ball into the left corner low. Patricio well beaten. The through ball from Moy was a beauty, and that was 1-1. 2 minutes later, and Brighton went ahead. Again, Moy influential on the up byline, and he put in a neat cross where a Proper jumped high above everybody and headed it powerfully past Patricio. So the Seagulls had turned it round and were up 2-1. But a couple of minutes before the break, the equaliser, Johnny, influential, fed Jota, who ran into the box and clipped the ball with his left foot wide of the keeper into the corner, and that was 2-2. The second half, there were no highlights whatsoever on my channel, so one assumes that it was pretty uneventful. So the final score at the Amex was Brighton 2, Wolves 2. Very brief highlights of the game at St James Park then. Newcastle at home to Southampton. It was a pretty dreadful first half. Redmond, who was back in the starting line for Saints, he did test Dubrovka on 2 occasions. But the keeper, once again, inspirational, and they enabled Newcastle to get to the break level at goalless. Into the second half though, and he couldn't do much about the opener for the Saints. Ings was just too quick, got ahead of the defender to latch onto a long through ball, and he hit it past the keeper, and that was 1-0 for Saints, and they will look good for it. But then somehow Newcastle turned the game round. Carroll, who was on, he clipped a great cross in from the right, and Shelby jumped high above everybody and headed it into the corner. A rare goal by Shelby with his head, and we were back level 1 each. Bertram then had a chance to put Saints back in front, but he missed from a yard out. Only he will know how. And then Longstaff, a shot from distance, the goalkeeper pushed it away, but only into the path of Hernandez, who followed it up and put it into the net. And Newcastle had gone ahead 2-1. They held on to that lead And so a really good run being put together by Bruce's men. Final score at St James's Park: Newcastle 2, Southampton 1. So the two promoted sides met at Carry Road. Norwich at home to Sheffield United. Sheffield United having a much better run than their opponents. Campbell was on the bench for Norwich, not quite sure why, because he's been in good form. McGoldrick and Musette were back up front for Sheffield United. McBurney back on the bench. First period pretty uneventful. 25 minutes though. Defensive error by Godfrey let in McGoldrick, whose strike was well sowed by Kroll. Sheffield United had made the early running, but a minute later it was Norwich who took the lead when Tete capitalised on a ball bouncing about in the box. He turned it in at the near post. There was a lot of debate from VAR. Took an age, as there was a suggestion of a handball somewhere, but basically VAR didn't turn the decision round, so Norwich were 1 up, and that's how it remained till the break. Into the second half, and Sheffield United completely dominant, and a couple of minutes in, their fullback Stevens nodded in a lofted corner from the right, and that was 1-1. 3 minutes later they went ahead when Baldock, the other fullback, coolly collected the ball just on the edge of the penalty area, turned 360, and his shot deceived Kroll, and it was 2-1. A bizarre incident on 53 minutes when it looked like Sheffield had got a third, but there was a ruling by VAR that Lundstrom had been in an offside position, so the goal was disallowed by VAR. So it remained 2-1. Basham, who had been the man responsible for that third that was chalked off, then got himself in a real spot of bother, and the referee issued a red card for a nasty challenge, but then VAR stepped in and reversed it to a yellow, so he stayed on the pitch. I've not seen that happen before. A couple of late chances for Sheffield United. McGoldrick, one wide, one over. Henderson also came into the action to deny Campbell an equaliser. So Sheffield United hung on and took this game by 2-1. So to the Monday night match then, West Ham at home to Arsenal. Not too many bubbles in the stadium for West Ham. Not too many bubbles in their performances either. And Arsenal, they've been outgunned. So there's a few metaphors for you to get you started. The first 20 odd minutes were forgettable. 32 minutes of Aubameyang cross, but Ozil was on the end of it, and he's not prolific with his head, and so it went over. A minute later, Antonio ran clear on the left side of the box, and he forced a good save from Leno. And 4 minutes later, Ogbonna's header connected in a melee of players after a long cross from the right, and it hit a defender and went past Leno, and so Hammers were 1 up. That was the score at half time, and into the second half they should have gone 2 up. Xhaka on 54 managed to clear across his back 4 line, and the ball was picked up by Snodgrass. Dreadful piece of defending, but Snodgrass' effort was deflected wide. Martinelli, who had been looking impressive on 59, got the Gunners back into the match, and he got a priceless contact from a cross from the left from Kolasinac, and that was 1-1. And after that, the Gunners took over. They started to play the sort of football that we've been used to in the past. And on 65 minutes, the ball was put out to the right, and Pepe jinked inside and hit an absolute perler with his left foot just inside the post. Martin had no chance, and that was 2-1 to Arsenal. And 3 minutes later, Pepe turned provider, and this time Aubameyang was on the penalty spot area, and he managed to swivel and connect the ball from Pepe's clip into the box, and he hooked it in the corner for 3-1. Well, that's how it finished. A priceless win for Arsenal. West Ham really are in the doldrums, and I wouldn't be surprised if Pellegrini isn't relieved of his duties. One other point that I failed to mention in Saturday's matches was that the Watford manager was sacked, and Nigel Pearson is taking over for the next game, which is this coming weekend. That was the second time that Flores Perez had been in charge of Watford, but he didn't last very long. So losing your job is becoming habitual in the Premier League. So let's now move on to the summary. So that's week 16 finished, and let's have a look at the tables. Well, Liverpool still are on top with 46 points. Leicester maintaining their push are in second, clearly in second now, 6 points up with 38, 6 ahead of Man City on third, who slumped to their 4th defeat of the season against their rivals across the city. Chelsea, another defeat, they're back in 4th with 29. And well, look at the gap there from Liverpool to Chelsea. It's a massive 17 points. Up to 5th are Manchester United with 24. Wolves are there as well on 24, and Spurs a point behind on 23. And then there are 4 teams on 22 points, 8, 9, 10 and 11. Arsenal, Sheffield United, Crystal Palace and Newcastle. At the bottom, Watford are still there at the bottom with 9. Norwich, another defeat, have got 11. And Southampton have gone back into the bottom 3 with 15. And Villa, 4th from bottom with 15. Everton have moved out of that danger area and are now 6th from bottom, I believe. So, to the goal of the week. Well, there was some nice ones. Pepe's was a beautiful curving effort, and one has to say that the Salah goal was a lovely team goal as well. Going a bit further back, and I must admit I did like Martial's goal, the second for United. But I'm going to have to give it to Son Heung-min for that extravagant run from inside his own half all the way through, beating Perez at will and then slotting it past Pope for I think Tottenham's third. So that's my goal of the week. Okay, that's your lot. There will be a Champions League update later in the week. We've got the match day 6, the final match day of the group stage, is taking place on Tuesday and Wednesday evening. Okay, that's your lot.